Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Welcome to another installment in the Dragon Hoard series, a video series where I take a look through all the Dragon magazines that I have in my personal collection. Today we're going to be taking a look at issue number 281 from March of 2001, and this one is chock full of 3.0 psionics. We have a Githzerai on the cover there. You're unleashing a mind beam. You have psionics, some new feats and powers, mental monks and psi hunters, how to survive psychic combat. There is an Underdark name generator, 101 fantastic settings. I'm interested to see how they fit 101 settings into a magazine. And then we got free campaign logjam busters. I have no idea. What that's about. So let's just go ahead and get right into it, shall we? So, opening it up. Oh my god. Oh my god, I completely forgot about Warlord. Okay, this is awesome. So when I was in my last year of high school, I graduated the year before, but they opened up a new school which had some new courses that weren't available before that I really wanted to take. Some other courses that I had to kind of let fall by the wayside because of the fact that they instituted provincial exams when teachers were not ready for the pace that they had to teach at. So senior year was pretty rough, but I went back to the new school the year after to just upgrade some courses. And one of the things that was going on around that time, which is 2001, 2002, was Warlord Saga of the Storm was this really popular card game, and it was really popular for maybe a year. It may have lasted a little bit longer, but I feel like this fell off pretty quickly. But it was a really cool game because it wasn't just like Magic where everything was sort of like set in terms of like toughness and defense and stuff like that. You actually would make attack rolls. Like you see the D20 there. And like you had character classes. Like this was based off of the D20 kind of system. And so you'd have your attack bonus, you would have your defense. So this would, if someone attacked you, they'd have to hit your armor class. And you have their level and special abilities. And what was actually kind of cool about this one is that the way you set the board up was that you had, like, I think it was 3 ranks that you started with. You had your first rank, which had level 1 characters, and you had 3 level 1 characters at the front. You had to attack, unless you had abilities that allowed you to attack at range, which would allow you to attack the second rank or the third rank, you would always have to attack whatever the front rank was, typically with your own front rank. So you'd have 3 level 1 creatures in front, and then you could have 2 level 2 characters in the second rank. And then your third rank was actually like your Warlord. And your Warlord was it was usually like a level 4 or 5 type of creature. They were pretty powerful. But if your Warlord died, you lost the game. So you would want to make sure that you could protect them as much as possible. And we used to play this game all the time at lunch or during free periods. Oh my, this is wild. I completely forgot that this existed. This is amazing. Oh my god, so many memories. So many memories coming back. They had like pre-made decks, booster cards that you could add to it. I think I even had like bought a deck at one point, but I think I sold it to a friend or gave it to a friend of mine. And yeah, that is wild. They also AEG also did create I think it was called the Scarred Lands or something like that. But they actually created a campaign setting that was based off of the Warlord card game. And I remember that I think it took forever to actually come out. Like it kept getting delayed and kept getting delayed. And then by the time it actually came out, the card game was basically dead. But man, oh, that is so awesome. Holy crap. I don't remember a lot about how it played, but I remember a few things and just, oh my god, that's awesome. All right, we're doing good so far. Sigh of Relief. So again, the editorial about the introduction of psionic abilities. Scale Mail, which again, I'm not going to go into here. That can be the subject of its own video. Profiles. So keeping the faith with James Wyatt. I think he wrote the Defenders of the Faith book for 3rd edition. Anyway, I always like James. I've seen him run a few games. He's kind of a soft-spoken guy, but just you can tell he's just a huge D&D fanatic, and yeah, great stuff. Great stuff, James. Reaper Miniatures takes me back as well. Up on a Soapbox, What the Heck is a Role-Playing Game? Part 3 by Gary Gygax. Previews. There we got the Sonic's Handbook. Comes out the same month as the magazine. What do we got here? Open your mind to psionics. Look no further than the 160-page Sonic's Handbook. So, yeah, 160 pages. $26.95 US, $41.95 Canadian. That feels like a very unfavorable exchange rate. The Canadian dollar was not great around that time. Although there was a point in the early to mid 2000s where the Canadian dollar actually was worth more than the US dollar. Didn't last long, but there was a time, and what sucked is that like a lot of businesses, like bookstores in particular, refused to sell things for the US price, even though the Canadian dollar was worth more than the American dollar at that point. So we were just getting gouged at that point. Like I said, I think it only lasted for like a month or two that it was like that, but there you go. All right. What's great about the all-new Sonics, or about the new Sonics system that isn't new at all? It's the same system that everything else in D&D uses, with a twist or two. Yeah, except worse. So, Arthur Bruce Cordell, and again, I love Bruce. He's done a lot of things that I've really like. I like his writing style. This was just not a good rule set at all. So Bruce Cordell agrees and adds, the Sonic system features elements of previous D&D Sonic systems. That said, those features were stripped out, laid out on a game mechanic workbench, then rebuilt from the ground up. The Sonic system for the new edition of D&D game dovetails seamlessly with the core mechanic of the D&D system. A Sonic character will be balanced with a non-Sonic character of equal level. I disagree. I feel like they're actually worse. You'll be able to multi-class into and out of Sonic character classes, as you can with the core classes. Don't fear for game balance when you use the Sonic's Handbooks. Have at it and enjoy. So again, one of the biggest issues with Sonics in 3rd edition is that you needed multiple different ability scores to determine things that for others, like spellcasters, would all fall under the same ability. So like your bonus Sonic points, your psi points that you could use to manifest your Sonic powers was linked to one attribute. Their DCs for their saving throws was linked to a different attribute. And then some of the powers based off like the Sonic focus that you had would require a third ability as well. So it was just not a good system. Also, your Sonic powers don't scale at all. They never get any better. Think of like 5th edition magic system where your spells just have a set effect, and then just say there's never a way to use a higher level spell slot to make them more powerful. And then we'll roll them back even further. So something like Magic Missile in 5th edition, the first level version's pretty good, like three missiles at 1d4 plus 1 each. Now, let's just say instead of that, it was a first level spell that does 1d4 plus 1 and that never changes. That's what 3.0 Sonics was like. There were improved versions of certain abilities that would grant like higher damage or higher bonuses. But man, 3.0 Sonics was rough. It was rough. Then we have The Summoning, which was a Forgotten Realms novel, the Diablo 2 to Hell and Back. Super Adventure. I've never seen a single 3rd edition Diablo product at all, ever. Like even at my local game store, when I was going there regularly, which would have been around this time, I would have been going to the store, and I used to have to hang out for at least an hour because I had to wait for the bus to come back. I had never seen a single Diablo 2 3rd edition D&D product. I'd seen like the 2nd edition ones, but I'd never seen the 3rd edition ones. Countdown to the Forgotten Realms. So we are, let's see here. It looks like it comes out in July. Comes out in June. So we are at March now. So there's still a few months to go. But we got the Organizations of Faerun. So Mad, Bad, and Dangerous to Know. We got the Zentarum, Fire Knives, Xanathar's Guild. All right, so we got the organizations, who they are, and what do they want. The Red Wizards. So the Red Wizards, who they are. Red Wizards are wizards bent on world domination, and what they want is to rule the world. So I guess they're not too complex there. People of the Black Blood, which is a vicious lycanthropes. They want to hunt, kill, and eat you. Xanathar's Guild, beholder-run thieves and slavers. They want to rob and enslave for profit. So yeah, pretty cool. Convention calendar. A Dork Tower. Dork Tower is awesome. If you haven't checked it out, you really should. Mine Lords of Talaron. Okay, so this is, I guess, a little bit of setting information to use with the Psionics Handbook, which is kind of neat. I don't know if I want to get into an article this long, if I'm going to be completely and totally honest, but there are some good suggestions here. So, for example, what the dominant alignment for this area might be, the different relations, religions that are prevalent, names that you may want to. So it says Talair names sound vaguely foreign, but are otherwise as diverse as other humans are with regards to naming their children. Oh, but they don't give you a list, do they? That's actually kind of bad. Normally, they would actually give you like sample names, and it's weird that they don't do that here. So, I don't know. We're gonna pass over this one. I think it just, again, 3.0 Psionics was not good, so I'm not super interested in the in what they have, and it doesn't look like they're spinning the system too much, except for the little marketing blurb and the upcoming releases thing. Then we got Psi-Gates, so we'll read the Psi-Gate at least. So one psionic artifact associated with Talair is the Psi-Gate, which means the Talair the means the Talair used to use to explore the wide world, sort of thing. These gates are archways, usually constructed of stone, set with crystals, placed in isolated areas. A Psi-Gate allows any psionic character with sufficient knowledge to travel to any other Psi-Gate on the same world or throughout the planes. The user spends 9 power points and makes a Psi-Craft check. So it's similar to like the Spellcraft skill. It's just a regular skill. You put ranks into it. You have your ability score modifier. With the DC based on where the character wants to go. If the check is successful, the gate opens and transports up to 1 creature per psionic class level before closing again. The character can keep the gate open for additional people by spending another 9 power points per round. The gate is open. If the check fails, the gate does not open. The DM might wish to make the Psi-Craft check in secret. Oh, okay. So this might be a role. It's something that I want to say the rules actually kind of allowed or suggested, but I don't think a lot of people actually used, which was the DM making the roll for the player, getting the bonus from the player, and then just, letting them know what they get from it based on that. And like in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, they have, I think they're called secret checks. And I got to say, I like them because it's harder to metagame them. Because like if you roll and you roll low and the DM says, yeah, you don't notice anything or you don't find anything out of the ordinary or, nothing happens, it's because you chunked the roll. But if the DM makes the roll and they say, yeah, nothing seems to happen or you don't notice anything unusual, or it seems to have activated, like, you've activated it, but, maybe you didn't activate it the way that you wanted to, right? So it's a little harder to tabletop that one. But anyway, so the DC for the destinations, so if it is a known gate on the same world, the DC is 15. If it is an unknown gate on the same world that you want to travel to, the DC is 20. A known gate on another plane is a DC 25, and an unknown gate on another plane is DC 30. So yeah, Psi-Gates would actually be kind of cool to use. And then the Calm Amid the Storm. This looks like another massive article. Holy God, okay. So Hidden Teachings of the Githzerai. So Githzerai monasteries. Okay, so it looks like this just gives you a couple of prestige classes. And because it's a Gith race, their names and all their like cities and enclaves and all that stuff has to have multiple apostrophes in it. So we got the Monastery of Zareth Adlun, Zareth Cenobite. When I see Cenobite, I think Pinhead. So what do these guys do here? Strict meditation into the nature of time and the body's movements through it form the basis of the Zareth Cenobite studies of a martial art called Zerthan. Zerthan is taught only at this place, Zareth Adlun. Although disorder rages without, the calm order reigns within the monastery, which makes sense because they're monks. A Zareth Cenobite, allowing the Zareth Cenobite to learn the art of peering for a moment or two into the future and thereby gain insight as to where to place their next blow or how to best dodge the next attack of their foe. Okay. Studying this prestige class does not invoke the special monk restriction. So monks, you could, if you multi-classed out of the monk class, you could never go back into it. So prestige classes with the monk in mind were always exceptions to that rule. So if you took like levels of monk and then you multi-classed into this prestige class, it didn't affect you as far as not being able to go back to the regular monk class afterwards. The requirements are a base attack bonus +4, knowledge of the outer planes at 8 ranks. So if that was a class skill, you'd have to be at least 5th level because your maximum number of ranks is your level +3. Feats improved unarmed strike, deflect arrows, dodge, and mobility. Alignment any lawful because, yes, in 3rd edition, alignments for classes were still a thing. Monks had to be any lawful. So monks had to be a lawful alignment, and barbarians could not be any lawful alignment. They didn't necessarily have to be chaotic, but a barbarian could not be a lawful character. I think it's the same thing. Actually, no, barbarians had to be chaotic, but rogues, I think, could be any non-lawful alignment. So there were some balances. Paladins were the most heavily restricted because they had to be lawful good. All right, so let's take a look at some of their abilities. See what they get here. All right, so they get Student of Perfection. So that is a 1st level ability. So Zareth Cenobites are monks, although they meditate on alternative methods of achieving physical enlightenment. As such, a Zareth Cenobite gains the unarmed strike bonus, unarmed damage, AC bonus, and speed, unarmored speed, as if they were a monk of the level of their monk level combined with this one. Okay, so that's basically, there are some like level dependent abilities that the monk had, like their unarmed bonuses for their attack and damage. So you basically would just stack your prestige class levels for this to that, and there you go. So if you were a 7th level monk and a 3rd level Zareth Cenobite, you would have the unarmed attack bonus, unarmed damage, AC bonus, and unarmored speed of a 10th level monk. Sense Fate, the character sometimes gets premonitions of the immediate future and can attempt to alter the perceived future in a limited fashion. Once per day, the Cenobite is allowed to re-roll one attack that they have just made. Not attack. Re-roll one roll that they just made. She must use the results of the re-roll, even if it's worse than the original. If the Zareth Cenobite has levels of Cleric with the Luck Domain power, this power is cumulative with that domain. It's an extraordinary ability. So it's kind of a precursor to modern day Advantage, where basically you just get to, but it's a flat out reroll. So Advantage, what we have in 5e now is you get to roll 2d20 and then you take the better or worse result. With this one, you just take the reroll. So whatever your first one is, if you're not happy with it, you can roll again using this ability once per day. However, if you roll worse, then you still have to take that new result. But there weren't a ton of things in 3rd edition that gave you the option to re-roll. So it's still a pretty good ability overall, in my opinion. Then they got Combat Foresight. So a Zareth Cenobite's awareness extends a fraction of a second into the future, allowing her to better land blows against opponents. She gains a +1 insight bonus to her attack rolls, and it's an extraordinary ability. Just a permanent +1 insight bonus. That's, again, pretty good. Now, bonuses that have like a name type like insight or inherent or enhancement, like those things, if you have multiple bonuses that have the same type name, then you would always take the better of the two. The only real exception to that, I think, is dodge, but it was very clearly stated in the rules that if you're creating, like, you should never create magic items that give you a dodge bonus, like, so that should never be like a permanent thing that you can get. It should always be achieved through like a feat or like a class ability kind of thing. So, but that's still pretty good that they just get a +1 ability to their attacks at all times. Danger sense. So basically, they get a +2 dodge bonus to reflex saves and armor class against traps. So yeah, that's an ability that like thieves or rogues and barbarians also get. So I think monks get that too. It's just in 3.5 it was just like a version of uncanny dodge. I think you just got like regular and then improved. But in 3.0 it was kind of broken out as a separate ability, but still, not bad that they get that. It doesn't look like it increases either, so it's kind of a set bonus of just +2, which is fine. Improved Foresight. So the Xera Cenobite's temporal awareness extends a fraction further forward. She has a total +2 insight bonus on attack rolls and a +1 insight bonus on damage rolls. That's better. What level do you have to be for that? Improved Foresight is a level 4 ability. They get that 2 levels after their combat Foresight, so it doesn't take long for that to actually improve. That's crazy. And then they get just Insight as another ability. With meditation, secrets of the future become clear to the character. Each day, the Xera Cenobite gains a floating Insight bonus of +2. That Insight bonus can be applied to any ability check, skill check, or saving throw roll. The character can decide to add the Insight bonus to the roll before or immediately after it is made. For instance, if the character rolls a Fortitude saving throw with a total of 10, she could decide to bring her Insight to bear, which increases it to 12. The floating insight bonus can only be used once per day, and like most bonus types, does not stack with other insight bonuses. Only the highest bonus applies, which I already said. So it's nice that they have it there in like the third ability to grant an insight bonus instead of the first one. But, it is what it is. At least it's there somewhere. Key Strike. So Key Strike is basically just an ability that makes your unarmed strikes equivalent to a magic weapon. So you get the bonus to hit and to damage, but this one does not stack with the similar ability that a monk gets. So you would just take the better of the two. So at 5th level, you get a +1. So your unarmed strikes are counted as +1 weapons, +1 to hit, +1 to damage, and they also count as affecting creatures that required a +1 weapon or +1 bonus in order to overcome their damage reduction. So it's just kind of the way of allowing monks to overcome damage reduction without having to use weapons. Time Step. So, Time Step, that's just the name sounds good. That's a 6th level ability. So once per day, the Cenobite can step forward in time up to a number of rounds equal to her wisdom bonus, always into the future, never into the past. The character seems to disappear, then reappear the appropriate number of rounds later. The monk reappears in exactly the same orientation and condition as before. For the Xera Cenobite, no time has passed at all. The Xera Cenobite can utilize Time Step once per day. This supernatural ability. If the space from which the character departed from is occupied when the effect would end, she appears in the closest unoccupied square, still in the original orientation. Determine the closest space randomly if necessary. So it's interesting that they say in the same orientation, because for the most part, facing doesn't matter in 3rd edition D&D. It's not like before in AD&D or Basic Expert, where you got a bonus for attacking from behind, or like your shield, for example, could only deflect attacks in a forward-facing arc, so your shield bonus wouldn't apply to being attacked from behind. That said, large creatures in 3.0 didn't take up like a full square like they did in 3.5 and kind of beyond. So you could have things like a centaur, which was 10 feet long but only 5 feet wide. So if you had a centaur Xera Cenobite, then that might matter a little bit. But for the average character, Facing really didn't matter because you could change your facing, instantly. Like, it was never really a concern in third edition. But unless you were like a large creature that had like a long body, like a centaur or displacer beast or things like that. Discerning attack. The Xerath Cenobite can see a foe's past hurts even if completely healed, and she has the ability to attack the creature and re-inflict those past wounds in the present. A discerning attack can be made against creatures damaged by the Cenobite's unarmed strike. The Cenobite can use, again, whenever I see Cenobite, I always think Hellraiser. I'm sorry, just Doug Bradley's voice is stuck in my head now. So the Cenobite's, sorry, where are we? The unarmed strike. Cenobite can use the supernatural ability once per round, but no more than once per Xerath Cenobite level per day. Okay, so once per round, but what level do they have to be to get that? So level 7? So when they first get it, no more than 7 times per day, but only once per round. Okay. A foe struck by the Cenobite is forced to make a Fortitude saving throw, DC 10 plus the Xerath Cenobite's level plus their Wisdom modifier. So at 7th level, they had a +3 modifier. It would be a DC 20, 10 plus 7 plus 3, just as an example. In addition to receiving normal damage if the saving throw fails, the opponent takes double damage as if the effect delivered a critical hit. The Cenobite strikes if the Cenobite strikes with a critical hit while using Discerning Attack, the damage is tripled. So in 3rd edition, because you had like these things that could create multipliers, you would never, like, if something doubled your damage, like a critical hit, and something would also double your damage from another effect, you don't double a double. So instead of like doubling it and then doubling it again for ×4, you would just add an additional multiplier on. So if you had an effect that would double your damage, and then another effect would double it again, you just do 3 times the damage instead of 4 times. And then if you had another effect on top of that that could also double damage, then it would go up to ×4. But that very rarely ever happened. But yeah, you don't double a double. You just add an additional ×1. Like you add +1 to the amount of times you multiply your damage. And yeah, with that, I think in the default rule was to actually roll the dice. I don't think you actually like multiplied. If you would do a d8 plus 6, for example, you would do 2d8 plus 12 or 3d8 plus 18 kind of idea. So still kind of neat. Timeless Body. A Xerath Cenobite no longer suffers ability penalties for aging and cannot be magically aged. Any penalties she may have suffered already remain in place, and then bonuses that you would get from aging still happen, but the monk still dies of old age. So it's not so. I don't even know if 5th edition does this anymore, but it used to have age categories. There was like juvenile, young, venerable, and old. And essentially, when you reach the older age categories, you would suffer a -1 penalty to your physical attributes, so strength, dex, and con. And in exchange, you would add +1 to intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. And I think there were like the 2 or 3 age categories that you would have. So you can get like up to like -2 or -3 on your physical, and then +3 on your mental stats. So it was kind of neat. Again, not very many instances would you actually use that. Not a lot of things age your character. There were some things, but there weren't a ton of things. It's not like back in, again, AD&D or earlier versions of D&D where if you cast the haste spell on yourself, you immediately aged a year. So haste was used a lot more liberally in 3rd edition than it was before. But yeah, regardless, you could still ignore the penalties of aging and get the benefits. Improved insight. So we had insight. Where were we here? We had combat. So we had, insight. Oh, okay. This is greater, improved insight. So this is the floating one. Okay, so the bonus increased from +2 to +4. Can also, and it can be used for attack rolls. Okay, that's interesting because it's an insight bonus. And the Foresight is also an insight bonus, right? So you don't get to add the +4 and the +2. You would just get the +4. But with the improved insight, it's a floating bonus that can be added to a skill check, an ability check, or a saving throw, or you can add it to your attack roll, which is kind of cool. And then we got Timeless. Once per day, the Xerath Cenobite's personal sense of time increases so greatly that all other creatures seem frozen. However, they are actually still moving at their normal speeds. The Zero Cenobite is free to act for a number of rounds of apparent time, equal to her wisdom modifier. Normal and magical fire, cold, gas, and the like can still harm her, while timeless other creatures are invulnerable to the character's attack. However, she can create a spell or sign effects and then leave them to take effect when the timeless period ends. These effects' durations do not begin until the timeless period is over. Okay, so there's like Delayed Blast Fireball, which I've never used, but there was a spell where you could actually you cast a fireball, like little light bead of light kind of goes to the point where you want it to, but you could choose to delay it a number of rounds when you cast the spell. So technically, even though you couldn't cast Fireball on them while time is frozen, you could cast Delayed Blast Fireball and have it expire or have it detonate at the exact moment that you kind of go back into normal time. So that's it. It sounds like a powerful ability. There was a time stop or time freeze. I think it was time stop spell it was like a 9th level spell, 8th or 9th level spell in D&D, where basically you would do the same thing. You would freeze time for everybody else, but you could use that time. Essentially, use it to either move away from an area, or you use it to cast like buff spells on yourself, or to heal up, or to do things along those lines. So that's kind of the same thing here. Like when you have those free rounds, you can't just use them to unleash multiple attacks against frozen opponents. You use it essentially to kind of buff yourself up. Or you could cast, like I said, Delayed Blast Fireball and have it expire the second that the time stop effect ends. So yeah, kind of cool. Oh, there's another prestige class here. I'm not going to read this one. The Arachnopath Monk. A terrible hate burns at the heart of the Arachnopath monks. While some may hate with all their hearts, impotently, the Arachnopath encompasses their fury. Nah. Plus it says arachno in it, which just makes me think of spiders, and we're gonna move on. The Splintered Mind, Rebels of the Scarlet Brotherhood. This is actually kind of cool. Because in my current 3rd edition campaign, my 3.5 game that I'm running the Savage Tide Adventure Path. Which is sort of like a nautical themed, or at least the early stuff is a little bit more nautical themed. But one of the organizations that the characters have interacted with a couple of times by now is actually the Scarlet Brotherhood. In fact, I just finished the adventure where they're like essentially sailing to the Isle of Dread, and they get trapped on this patch, this giant, like miles wide, miles long patch of seaweed called a sargasso, and it's maintained by this evil vine creature that, like, it's this whole thing exists because of the malevolence of this creature, and essentially what it does is it allows ships to kind of sail into its area, and then it swallows it in the seaweed, which is so thick that you can't cut through it. You can walk on it like it's solid ground. And the ships that are trapped in it are stuck, like they can't move at all. And one of the ships that was closest to the party ship when it got trapped in there was a ship called the Rage. And by reading one of the journals that was left behind, you discovered essentially through like the language of the person who wrote it, who was a monk, because it talks about like meditation techniques and stuff like that. But yeah, it was a monk, and they kept referring to their allies as their brothers. So it was a Scarlet Brotherhood ship. So that's kind of cool. Again, I'm not going to go into like much of the Scarlet Brotherhood article here. I might save that for a future video. But we do have some new weapons included here. It looks like 2 of them are double weapons. So we've got the double Scimitar. So in 3rd edition, you had a fair number of double-edged or double-bladed or double-ended weapons. You had things like the double sword, which was essentially like a long sword and a short sword, but it was combined into one weapon. There may or may not have been some influence because of Darth Maul and Phantom Menace, which came out before 3rd edition released. But yeah, so you had like the two weapons. You could use them for two-weapon fighting skill or for the like two-weapon fighting feats. But here we have the double scimitar, and the benefit of the double scimitar, it does a d6 on both sides. So I think with the double sword, I want to say it was a d8 on one and a d6 on the other, but I could be wrong. But this one gives you the critical threat range of a scimitar, which is 18 to 20 instead of 19 to 20. So you can you can generate a chance for a critical far more often with the double scimitar. You also have the bladed staff, which is also a double weapon. It just has the spearheads basically on either side. And then you got the panther claw. So this is sort of a three-bladed weapon. So this one actually looks kind of interesting. So the panther claw looks like a punch dagger, which was in the player's handbook, with two extra blades. The weapon retains the punch dagger's deadly force, which is D4. So deadly is a relative term. To a 10th level fighter, not so much. To a first level wizard, terrifying. But the extra blades are useful for disarming opponents. Wielders proficient with the Panther Claw gain a +4 competence bonus when making disarm checks with the Panther Claw. So that's pretty cool. And then we just got the Truth Seeker, which is another prestige class. Just too many prestige classes. There's a lot to digest with them, so we're going to move on. Then we got Truth Seeker powers. Okay, this is kind of neat. This is kind of neat. I like these. So these are tables for essentially randomly generating NPCs. There were charts like this in the DMG, in like the 3.0 and 3.5 DMGs, and they're great if you ever have to wing it, right? Like these were really cool for that. So what you have is the character type, and it gives their level progression all the way from level 1 through level 20. So this one, for example, is a multi-class monk and psychic warrior. So they end up getting like 10 levels of each. That gives you their base attack. And that should just be their base attack. Yeah. So it doesn't give you their attributes. That's the only thing that you kind of had to determine yourself. Though to be fair, like it was kind of easy to have like a standard array of ability scores that you could apply. To them, but it's still like super useful for just having like a lot of the legwork done for you. It gives you their saving throw bonuses, so fortitude, reflex, and will. Their average hit points, which again would be modified by their level times their constitution modifier, and then the abilities that they gain at each of those levels. So yeah, these are pretty cool. So you got the monk psychic warrior. You have the crimson blade, which is a psychic warrior fighter multi-class. And then you have the Truth Seeker, which is also a monk psychic warrior. Oh, okay, monk psychic warrior and then Truth Seeker prestige class combinations. And then we also get some new powers. Psychic sonic powers were bad. They were just bad. And so again, the reason that they were bad is because they didn't scale with your level, right? Like, they never got better. And the way that I kind of look at it, because in 3rd edition, you had a lot of abilities like Fireball, like a lot of wizard spells, cleric spells, that would just automatically improve based off of the characters, the caster level. Like a Fireball would do 1d6 per level up to a maximum of 10d6 in 3rd edition. So a 5th level character casting a Fireball would generate a Fireball using a 3rd level spell slot that does 5d6. A 10th level wizard would use that same 3rd level spell to generate a Fireball that does 10d6. But the sonic powers just never did that. So, but they were kind of balanced off of what a comparable spell of the same level would be. I don't think there's any like damaging abilities in here, unfortunately, which would be kind of good to look at. But think of it like, so in 5th edition D&D, 5th edition D&D spellcasting has a lot in common with like 3rd edition era psionics, if you really stop to think of it. But so think of like in 5th edition, your wizard spells have their base effect, right? And then you spend higher level spell slots to have a greater effect. So let's just say like Magic Missile in 5th edition does at its base form as a 1st level spell, shoots 3 missiles at 1d4 plus 1 each, right? So you have the option in 5th edition to spend a 2nd level spell slot to add an extra missile to that. So a 2nd level spell slot would fire 4 missiles total. So 3.0 psionics is essentially like 5th edition spells without the at higher levels options. And then even worse than that is your magic missile, for example, like if you had a psionic power that was equivalent to that. And I think the dice that they did was a little bit better, but it never improved. So let's just say, so kind of strip down magic missile. Instead of it doing 3 missiles at 1d4 plus 1 each, it just does 1 missile at, let's just say, 1d6 plus 1, or 1d8. I think like the closest ability would be Mind Thrust, which I think did 1d10. And you didn't add anything to it. I think it was just a d10 damage. So that never changes. So that never improves. Whereas a 1st level magic missile spell, even in 3rd edition, would get better as the character progressed. So the only way to have a more powerful version of, like, again, using magic missile in 5e terms as an example, you would have to take like improved magic missile, which would let you fire 3 missiles at 1d4 plus 1 instead of just 1 missile at 1d4 plus 1. 3.0 Sonics was bad. So I gotta be honest, I'm not overly intrigued by new abilities. I've just gotta be honest, because they just weren't good. And we got Races of the Underdark. Oh, okay, this is the name generator. This is the name generator. All right. So let's see what we got. So we got prefixes, we have suffixes. We also have different tables to tell you, I guess, how many times you roll. All right, so let's make a Dwargar. So a Dwargar name consists of 1 prefix and 1 suffix. Choose to roll once on table 3, or once on table 4, or you can pick a set of definitions you like. Okay, so you can either choose or you can roll. I actually have my dice handy, so you know what? We're gonna roll this bad boy. So that is what, percentile dice? All right, so we're gonna name our Dwargar. So table 3 for the prefix of the name. Table 4 for the suffix. All right, so the prefix is 55. 55 is Onic. And then the suffix is 50. So Onikgar, or Onugar. We'll go with Onugar. So Anu the meaning of it is strength or strong, and then Gar is dwarf, hero, or man. So yeah, Anu Gar being like strong hero. I like that one. I think that works. That's pretty cool. So we got random name generators for Darrow, for Dwargar, for Kuatoa, for Mind Flare. We got to do the Mind Flare. What do we got here? So for the Mind Flare, you roll on table 5, and then so table 5 tells us what we roll on for the other things. So we need a d6, and the 2 tables that you roll off of use d12s. So there's a d12, and let's find a d6. Okay, so table 5. We got a 5, so we roll twice on table 6, and once on table 7. So we're going to do these in the order that we roll. So table 6, first roll, I'm rolling a lot of like in the middle stuff here. That's interesting. So 5 is a Lugri or Lugri. And then 1, so Lugri, Abster, and then 1 again, Errant. So that's the boy. Lugri, Abster, Errant. So Lugri is fear or feared. Okay, so feared, memory, gourmet. Sure, they're mind flares. They eat brains. That makes sense. So feared, memory, gourmet. Love it. You also have the Swerve Neblin, so the deep gnomes. Okay, here we have our 101 wondrous whereabouts. Okay. I mean, 101 was a lot to ask for. I totally get that. I don't think I like this article. All right, what do we got here? So let's take a look at number one. The Library of Alexandria is the project of powerful cosmic force. This entity has built a labyrinthine hall in which is kept a copy of every tome ever written. Though many have succumbed to the ravages of time, it is said that the Library of Alexandria touches every other library ever built through strange extra-dimensional pathways. I mean, that's cool. It's, a location that you can use. 101 fantastic settings implies, to me at least, implies a little bit more detail, but I guess whatever. What do we got here? The city of Tolan was once watched over by a heavenly being. Evil gods grew jealous of the city and sought to destroy it in a great battle. Those gods were slain by the city's protector, but the bodies fell to the ground and stuck fast. From these corpses emanated a toxic stench, and the city was abandoned. I mean, okay, so they're like a short paragraph each on 3 columns of text on a page. We've got some dungeon tiles here, which is kind of cool. These are staying put because that is glued on by a glue strip that's been in there for 21 years. And as you can see, it has stained through pretty good on the next side. I don't think there's any way to remove this without tearing the crap out of this page. So you're staying in there. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Let's read one more. 28. The Gray Monolith is an ancient structure built to glorify a long-forgotten god. It is thought to be abandoned, and few travel here for any reason. Those who do often find mysterious offerings at the foot of the shrine. They are also likely to report hearing ghostly voices, whispering terrible secrets. I mean, like, these are all perfectly usable. Like, don't get me wrong. But you've got 101 ideas, right? That you're gonna have to put a lot of the legwork in yourself. I would have preferred 10 locations that had more detail to them. Some simple things like a table of rumors that you can use to kind of raise awareness that the site exists, or fables or legends, right? Just bits of esoteric lore that you could just roll on a table to hand out to the players to kind of pique their interest in going to the location. Then you could have a basic description, maybe a small map of the area or something, and then an encounter table, which could be literally just pulled from Monsters in the Monster Manual. Like, you don't even have to do any other work to it, and maybe like one item or benefit for the characters to go there. Like, these are all cool ideas. Like, don't get me wrong, they are creative. I would have just loved to have seen these expanded on a little bit more. So I think 10 well-developed ideas are better than 101 little like nuggets of information for you to kind of expand on yourself. And you know what? For people that love to homebrew, this is awesome, right? Because it's just a whole bunch of ideas that you can build and develop yourself, and that's great. But some people, like for me, I just don't necessarily have the time or the mental energy to develop that much stuff, like that much detail myself. So I would have preferred like 10 really well developed areas as opposed to 101 areas that give you like very little. So like Hodmer's wood has existed since before the beginning of many worlds and will continue to exist long after they are gone. In this eternal forest reside ancient, ageless beasts. These creatures gallivant across the cosmos. For though Hodmer's wood, all forests are mystically connected. I mean, it's a cool idea. It's a cool concept, but I don't know. I think I would have liked a bit more, I think, from this. Now, we would actually get later on, I forget what they called them now, but they were articles in Dungeon Magazine after like the reformat. And they would be things like 101 like NPCs you encounter on the road, or I don't think it was ever that high, but it was like, 50 or like it would just give you like one-line descriptions. That was kind of neat to have. So they were really cool articles to kind of read through. And this is along the same lines. It's just, again, I don't view this little blurb as an actual like setting so much as it is like setting ideas or setting like campaign seeds. It's cool, but I think it could have been better. Okay, Log Jam Busters. I have no idea what this is supposed to be. So helping your DM dig out. Anyone who's been role-playing for even a short time knows that some sessions go more smoothly than others. Oh, okay. Some are simply magical, everybody's paying attention, the spirit of cooperation is high, and each new development is more entertaining than the last. Unfortunately, that coin has a flip side. Sometimes the game can bog down, concentration drifts, players get irked at one another, and the game comes to a halt. We often assume that the task of avoiding these crashes rests entirely on the DM's shoulder. Certainly, it's true that a skilled DM crashes less frequently than an inexperienced or uncertain one, but that's no reason why you, as a player, should meekly surrender to a troubled game session. The DM is only one of the people in the room. Everyone has influence over the conflicts that cause these problems, and you can work to stop them from happening or get things back on track quickly. When they do happen, think of yourself as the DM's ally, as a member of the Legion of Logjam Busters. All right, so this is just basically some tips that you as a player can use for, I guess, like conflict resolution. So there's like things like sensitivity. Logjams are almost always a consequence of conflicting expectations. The conflict might arise between the DM and multiple players, a single player and the DM, or two or more players. To bust a log jam, you have to help reconcile these differences. So things like make suggestions, not demands, let other people talk. If some players have withdrawn from the game, ask some questions, draw back in. Okay, so it's just kind of some table etiquette kind of stuff here, some case studies. So I guess some actual, holy, this is like an HR conflict resolution binder. Oh my God. All right, so we got the case. Okay, let's just take a look at one of these here. You got the case of the fiery tunnel. So situation: you stand in a coffin-strewn dungeon chamber. The chalky remains of the vampires you've just slain are smoldering at your feet. You have two exits, but both of them give you pause. A thick portcullis has dropped across the archway through which you entered the chamber. Another tunnel leads away from the room, but the DM has described it as ringed with fire. The log jam. It looks like you'll be stuck in the chamber for a long time to come. Your fellow players can't agree on a course of action. Alan wants to keep trying to raise the portcullis, even though he's already taken 20 and failed. Betty, these are absolutely real names. I mean, they are real names, but I don't think too many people in... actually, I went to school with the Betty, so I guess it still applies. Betty argues that the group should try the fiery tunnel, but Alan is dead set against this. He is sure the characters will be incinerated. So here's the solution. Listening to Alan and Betty argue, you realize that both have radically different assumptions about the dangers of the tunnel. Each has the same goal. They want to get out of the room. You identify this as a conflict of communication. Betty assumes the tunnel trap will do a manageable amount of damage to the characters as they rush through it. Alan has concluded that it's one of those, if you're dumb enough to go there, you're dead dungeon features. I think Alan probably played a lot of Tomb of Horrors back in the day. You recall that Alan's PC in another campaign recently bought the farm because he misjudged the lethality of a similar trap. You tell the DM that your character is going to the lip of the tunnel? Okay. I don't think I've ever really used that terminology. I just would always say like the entrance of the tunnel, base of the tunnel, the lip of the tunnel. To take a better look at the flames. You prompt him for details. You find out that the flames seem to hug close to the walls and that they're orange and yellow. So that is, they're not as hot as blue flames would be. You ask how much heat you feel standing outside of the tunnel. Not much is the reply. Armed with this new information, you try to persuade Alan that he's overestimating the damage the PC will take from the flames. He softens his position, but isn't ready to dive in. So you offer to make a sacrifice. You'll send your PC through the tunnel first. If it gets through safely, the others should follow. If not, Alan can keep looking for a secret door or lever to raise the portcullis. You walk through the flame, you take a piddling 12 points of damage, and others follow. The log jam is broken. This is literally an HR conflict binder. I kind of love this. I think I might want to do this in a read the whole article in a future video, because this is amazing. Like this is amazing. Like this is kind of I mean, there's always like tips and advice in these types of things, but man, this is something. So yeah, I'm going to come back to this one for sure. Then we got the Hounds of Ash, which is a fiction, so it's just a short story. We're going to skip past that. We've got just some comics here. One panel comics. Versus Scions and Psychic Warriors. So this is kind of like the tips for fighting certain types of creatures. What do we have here? So this is for going up against Scions and Psychic Warriors. So let's just take a look at preparation and see what we got here. So know your target. One of the hardest parts about fighting Scions and Psychic Warriors is identifying them in the first place. They usually aren't identifiable as such until they start using their powers, and even then you might mistake them for ordinary spellcasters. I mean, okay. Let's see what we got here. So a veteran D&D player knows that a wizard in plate mail isn't a serious threat because the armor restricts her ability to cast spells. However, a Scion or Psychic Warrior has complete access to their array of mental powers, and her highest ability score might be Strength. I mean, it might be because of the way that Psionics is broken up over every attribute. Okay, I mean, yeah, I guess, like, a Scion could wear plate armor, but they're not proficient in it. Like, I don't think they're proficient in any armor, the Scion. So a Scion would have to burn 3 of their feats to be able to trick someone into thinking that they're not a Scion until they do something. It's possible, but I don't see that being a likely scenario. But you can also look for crystals and other weird items that Scions and Psychic Warriors carry. Scions in particular use crystals to hold extra side points, store ready to manifest powers, similar to scrolls, and fire powers right at you, similar to wands, basically. Many other psychic items, such as tattoos, skins, and other truly weird gear, can be used by non-psionic characters, but it had to be made by a psionic character, so it tends to stay within whatever psionic cultures and organizations exist in your campaign world. Okay. And then, yeah, make sure you got a good will save, because a lot of things target the will saving throw. Yeah, I gotta say, these articles are kind of neat, but I don't know. So tactics, know which psionic attacks are strong and weak. So Scions and Psychic Warriors have 5 psionic attack modes they can throw at you, and they have 5 defenses that a psionic defender can raise. Non-psionic defenders just get a will save, but the DC will probably be much lower. What? Non-psionic defenders just get a will save, but the DC will put it should be higher if they don't have a defense. I feel like that's a typo. Anyway, if you're psionic, you'll have to choose a defense mode without knowing the attack mode you're facing. It kind of sounds like it's asking you to metagame, if I can be completely and totally honest. So, I don't know. Okay, Mind Blast. Just want to check this out. All right, so ignoring the in the title, what is the longest name of a D&D or a D&D module that contains only one vowel in the title? You can use this vowel as often as you want. Okay. And then the solution is Tomb of Horrors, because the only vowel is the O. Yeah, that's neat little trivia, but yeah, that article's meh. The Adventures of Volo, Lost Treasures of Cormyr, looks like a collection of NPCs. Historical figures. Doesn't give you a lot to go off of in terms of what they actually were if you wanted to make them as NPCs. For example, we've got King Printler, a hot-blooded, broad-shouldered warrior. Okay, it says a warrior. For much of his life, he shrank in his later years, so that, okay, it actually gives you enough stuff that you can kind of work things out. So you know that he was a warrior, was a fighter, but he has gained a few age categories, so he's lost some strength, dex, and con, gained some intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. He was brave, had piercing blue eyes, close-cut brown hair, and a beard, and a faultless skill at dancing in youth and later age, but only at his gray years could he have been called cool-headed. Okay. And it gives you some NPC figures if you wanted to include them in your campaign. The summoning is just also some NPC characters from the novel of the same name. We've got Galaran, Nemedu, butchered that, I know. Male elf, 7th level fighter, 8th level sorcerer, so again, kind of high level. Forgotten Realms novel, but because like so many novels were continuations of one another, you'd have just NPCs could just continue to grow in power. Like here, this guy here, Malgaunt, he's 20th level diviner. We've got Takari Moonsnow is an 8th level ranger, 4th level diviner. Vala Thor's daughter is a 12th level fighter. And some kind of neat artwork, sort of. Don't know what's going on there, but anyway, another prestige class for the Psy Hunter. If you want me to cover this, let me know. I'm going to just skip over for now, because we're already at the hour mark. Then we got Masks Arcana, or Mask Arcana, Faces of Magic. So ages ago, a group of arch wizards of the Amaskari Empire. Oh, okay, Amaskari, yeah. Formed an alliance known as the Cabal of Madness. In pursuit of unlimited power, they struck a bargain with horrors from beyond their world, who taught them to make powerful magic masks that they call the Faces of Madness. Okay, so these are just basically campaign-specific, powerful magic items. We're not going to look at all of them, but we'll take a look at this one here just because it looks cool. So this is Yarnav's mask. It was made from both the skull of an elven paladin murdered millennia ago and the antlers of that paladin's special mount. That's brutal. The mask covers the upper portion of the wearer's face, and small copper chains run behind the wearer's head to hold it in place. The wearer of the mask is granted a +10 resistance bonus to saving throws against spells and spell-like abilities of the necromancy school, but not supernatural extraordinary abilities. The wearer of the mask casts spells of the necromancy school at a +4 bonus to caster level, checks to beat spell resistance. So if you're to make a spell resistance check, you basically roll a d20, you add your caster level, and I want to say your prerequisite ability score to it as well. But I'm just going to go with caster level for now to be on the safe side. So if you were a 10th level necromancer, right, and you're trying to overcome someone's spell resistance using a necromancy spell, you would roll a d20 +10 for your level. But here you get to add an extra +4. So that's not bad, actually. As a standard action, the wearer of the mask can use Control Undead as an 18th level sorcerer. She can use this ability number of times per day equal to 3 plus charisma bonus. Holy crap. And it's based off sorcerer as well. So if you're a sorcerer wearing this, like you use Command Undead like 6-7 times per day or more. That's rough. Each day, the wearer of the mask can use 3 spells from the list below, as though cast by an 18th level sorcerer. The spells are Vampiric Touch, Animate Dead, Create Undead, Create Greater Undead, and Soulbind. It's a spell-like ability. This one has a curse. Each time someone puts the mask on, they must make a Fortitude save against DC 20 or be instantly transformed into a Cursed, which is a creature from the Monsters of Faerun book. Remove curse spell kill. It destroys a curse. So you actually cannot raise or resurrect a cursed. You can use remove the curse spell to destroy them, but the only way to actually bring them back to life is to use limited wish or wish. So they're pretty tough. Or not pretty tough, but it's pretty tough to bring them back. Adventure hooks. Okay, I like this. So a kobold approaches the party through an intermediary, a blind bard, to let them know that a kobold sorcerer of her clan has been transformed into a powerful undead. The kobold hopes they can save her clan, which lives in an abandoned mine. So I actually kind of like these. Like, it's a powerful magic item. This one does have a pretty big, or a potentially big drawback, and adventure hooks, some ideas on how to incorporate them into your campaign. So this is pretty cool. You got different masks for different schools of magic, though some of them are repeated. I see like enchantment, divination, conjuration, illusion, transmutation, illusion. So some of them are repeated. But yeah, still pretty cool nonetheless. Then you got subterranean. Oh, what the hell is that? Subterranean scares. These are new creatures. So that's a jog. That is some. I mean, it's stylized art, I guess. I don't like it. I don't know. It looks very much like first edition AD&D, like monster manual cover creature art. So some people love that style. It just looks weird to me. It's a huge aberration, 14 hit dice. Bite and claws plus 16 plus 13, 18 to hit. Poison attack. Yeah, okay. It's something. Then you got the In-Living Spawn, which is a challenge rating 1/4, so kind of equivalent to a kobold. Genocid. Some weird creatures here, I guess, but yeah, it doesn't particularly like reach out to me. Role models, just again some tips on painting miniatures. Which again, I actually want to like read these articles in my spare time because I want to get into painting minis with that paint set that I recently picked up. Plays the Thing, Sage Advice. Yeah, again, I'm not going to look too much in these. I do want to do a video series in the future where I actually look at some of the Sage Advice stuff, but yeah, we'll well, I might pick out one or two here. Let's see. Fireball. Let's look at Fireball. Okay, so it says the Fireball spell inflicts 1d6 points of damage per caster level to a maximum of 10d6. Delayed Blast Fireball spell deals 1d8 points of damage per caster level, but there is no maximum listed. Is there a maximum? I thought it was like 15, up to 15 d8? I thought it did d6s. All right, so what's the answer? The Delayed Blast Fireball description in the first printing of the player's handbook is wrong. The spell inflicts 1d6 points of damage per caster level to a maximum of 20d6. Okay, that has been corrected in the second printing. Okay. I kind of want to check that out, actually, because I do have a first printing of the player's handbook. I'll be right back. All right, so I've got my player's handbook here. This is my first printing player's handbook that I got in 2000. So it does have, not only does it come with the character generator CD, which worked kind of until you start putting magic items in, but it also had the mini DMG and monster manual because those books weren't out yet. So that's how I know that this is a first printing. The second printing and third printing production runs had actual Sage Advice, questions and answers in those pages. So Delayed Blast Fireball. Detect, delay, poison, Delayed Blast Fireball. Okay, so it is as the Fireball spell, except its spell is more powerful and can detonate up to 5 rounds after the spell is cast. The burst of flame detonates with a low roar and delivers 1d8 points of fire damage per cast level. Oh, that is... Okay, so yeah. It's supposed to be 1d6 per level up to a maximum of 20d6. So yeah, so I've always wanted to get a second printing of the Player's Handbook for 3.0. Just because I have 2 copies of the Player's Handbook, but they're both first printings. So I kind of want to get that even more now to see some of the other differences. Let's look at one more here. We've got another Fireball one right next to it. So it says, I've always assumed that a Fireball caster is not affected by his own work. What, really? But another player pointed out that the spell description doesn't actually say that. What's the verdict? Okay. So the answer is the spell produces a ball of fire that is 20-foot radius spread. If you place it so that you're caught in it, then you take the damage, which is what it says there. It says if you're within the spread or within the place the spell affects, you're going to get burned. But if you place it in such a way that its origin point is more than 20 feet away from you, then you won't get caught in it. The current version of the spell, okay, so let's see. The effect would always fill that volume if it could, reshaping itself if necessary. This often caused the caster to be caught in the effect. The current version of the spell doesn't do that. It follows the rules for spread and effect. What? The spell produces a ball of fire that fills a 20-foot radius spread. If you place a fireball so you're within the spread, you get burned. Okay, so yeah, you take the damage. So what's this? The current spell version of the spell doesn't do that. It follows the rules for spread effect on page... Oh, that okay, 149. I'm not going to get into that here, but yeah, if you cast a fireball and you're in the area of effect, even though you're the caster, you still get affected by it. I feel... So this is, again, pretty short into the lifespan of 3rd edition at the time this issue came out. So on the surface, that might seem like a really silly question. Like, obviously, the fireball would damage you too. But we're coming from... 3rd edition was kind of the first version that really tried to have a concrete rule for every situation, which was one of its biggest detriments because it led to a lot of frustrating situations because they also wanted to have exceptions to almost every situation. But you had like 1st edition, 2nd edition, and like even Basic Expert and Beckme and all that. A lot of those were kind of heavily house ruled. So when I see that question, what I think is that this person's DM probably was running a house rule that a caster couldn't be damaged by their own attack spell, and just never told him that that was a house rule, right? It was just like, that's just the way that he played. If that was his only DM, then that was just the rule as he understood it. So I think this was a house rule that never got clearly communicated to be as such. And the only reason I would see a DM wanting to do that, honestly, is probably to abuse it themselves, unfortunately. But yeah, you know, if you're caught in your own spell's area of effect, you're affected. And then we just got some what is it called here? The forum stuff, Dungeon Craft. Okay, so this is just about like creating tribes for the various races, like culture societies. I'm not going to get into that one here, I don't think. And then there we go. We got What's New with Phil and Dixie. And, oh, cool. Okay. I didn't look at the back of this either. So we got Kingdoms of Calamar coming in spring of 2001. Experience fascinating cultures in a fully realized D&D world. This is Kenzerco, and I think Calamar was like the Hackmaster campaign setting. And I want to say that this was actually the first dedicated campaign setting to be released for 3rd edition. Because Forgotten Realms was still months away at this point. Dragonlance was closer to the release of 3.5. So I think that this Kenzerco Hackmaster campaign setting, I think this was the first actual campaign setting to come out for 3rd edition. So yeah, I mean, cool stuff. Overall, it's a so-so issue of Dragon Magazine. Psionics was just not good in 3.0. I'm sorry. I don't know too many people that actually liked the system. And you know what? If you did and you used it and you loved it, that's awesome. Like, you know, all the power to you. I would definitely not try to, to taint your memories of that. But from my perspective, from my group's perspective, like, we tried to make Psionics work and it just didn't. So yeah, it was kind of a lackluster issue, but some cool stuff in here. I like the name generator. I like the character, like the NPC charts. I think that was kind of cool. The 101 Fantastic Settings was okay because it gave you some ideas to use, but I would have preferred better realized locations and fewer of them than a larger number of basic ideas, but still, they were still cool. Like, you know, no doubt about that. And Logjam, it's literally an HR conflict resolution binder for D&D, and I want to look closer at that in the future. So anyway, that was my look at issue 281. If there were any articles that you wanted me to focus on a little bit more, let me know. If you want to like dive into the other prestige classes that I glossed over, I can certainly do that at some point. Just let me know. But anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I will see you all next time. Until then, take care.